Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet and let's get started. Have you ever made the decision to leave your job in the middle of a shift? For what reason? If so, part 4. One time only. I kept my job, but I turned down the shift. Brand ambassador is a job title that made me think of Costco food samples, though it depended on whether I was showing off food or not. I had a certificate to handle food safely and a license to serve alcohol, so even though my manager lived 4 hours away and gave me all of my shifts from home, she saw me as an asset. But on one famous day, a shift with beef chili was posted. To show how the seasoning packet works, they had us make the beef chili from scratch. Now, here are 2 things you need to know. It meant that I would work alone 75% of the time because I was remote from this big city company. 2, I wouldn't be able to get running water. The rep was only given a bottle of hand sanitizer and was told to work with raw beef. I wouldn't be able to wash my hands or find someone to watch the pot of chili while I ran to the bathroom or sink. I would also be handling raw meat and a pot of hot chili by myself. Dirty hands? Do something bad to yourself? So I told this nightmare no and didn't book it. Instead, I got a shift for some tea. For good reason, no one was taking the shift and management started pleading with people to take this demo. It's clear that I ignored it. After that, a week before the job, my boss changed my shift to the beef chili by hand. I was the only one in my district with the food safety certification, and they needed me to do it. I called my boss back right away, and I told her I was not going to work this shift at all. I told her she needed to either give me my tea shift back or put me on something else. It's not something I do lightly when someone accuses me of gaslighting them, but my boss tried to gaslight me and make me think this demo was fine. Told me I could use hand sanitizer instead of washing my hands, paper towels or gloves instead of getting my hands dirty with raw beef, and that this would be okay if I actually knew what I was doing when I got my food safety certification. Not only was she wrong, if my gloves broke even once, I'd get germs, and the idea to use paper towels and hand sanitizer was a joke, she was also asking me to do something that was against the law. After some back and forth, I finally told her that I would quit my job and report them for trying to force me to do unsafe work if she didn't book me for another shift, or if she couldn't promise that someone would cover me while I went to wash my hands. My boss gave in and said that if I took the shift, she would send someone to watch the pot while I washed my hands. I agreed because I didn't want to lose my job. For sure, when I got there, I was the only one there and had no help. The store was out of the chili seasoning I was supposed to be advertising, so I didn't have to quit right away. When I called my boss, the shift was reluctantly canceled without me having to quit. After an hour of searching in the back, I didn't even try, I was sent home. This needs a little background. The lazy coworker who caused this never got fired because we were already seriously short-staffed and corporate would immediately rehire her. My manager couldn't do anything about them and they knew it. They were fired after I quit because of them. I used to work at a gas station on the 3rd shift. There was a very common problem with a 2nd shift coworker who was always late, never did anything, and was on her phone all the time. She broke almost every rule every night. Even though she was nice, I hated having to work my shift when she had 2nd shift because I knew I had to do all of her work on top of mine or get yelled at. Also, I should say that 3rd shift works alone, so I was in charge of my own tasks and everything that day shift didn't do. It had been 2 days since I hurt my shoulder so badly that I had to go to an urgent care center. When he put my arm in a sling, the doctor told me you must never lift anything with this arm. With the other arm, don't lift anything heavier than 5 pounds. That hurt me at work because I pulled too hard when I was taking out the outside trash, which was too full of heavy trash because, once again, 2nd shift didn't do it. I shouldn't have worked at all, but I knew how to work a register. My boss won't let me miss work, so I have to bring in a note from the doctor to show I can't do any work. Tomorrow night, the second shift will have to do their work because I can only fill up the coffee machines and wipe down the counters. This is okay with the manager, and the assistant manager can see it too. When I got to work, the trash cans outside had been cleaned for once. Still, they didn't do anything else. Don't worry, it's not a problem. I work my shift and do what I can with my injury. I tell the morning managers that anything I missed, which was clearly written down on my daily task list, was left exactly as the second shift left it. This makes them angry because they can see how much work the second shift left behind. It's the day of reckoning. When I wake up from my nap and go back to work, the outside trash cans are fuller than they've ever been. The store's a mess, and the girl on the second shift is playing on her phone in front of the register. She looks at me badly and walks away. It's pretty clear that management yelled at her. I lost my temper at this point. I take pictures of the mess, the work that isn't done, and the list of tasks that she checked off to show that she had completed them. I take pictures of the trash cans outside, which are once again full to the brim. I send all of my proof to the group chat where my boss is also present. Once more, I want to remind everyone that I can't lift anything and can't do most of my duties. That person's called out for being lazy when I point out that the task sheet was signed off on. I get why people are mad, and I know I'm being a jerk for this, but this coworker is clearly getting back at me. People in charge are mad that we're arguing and blowing up her phone at midnight because they have to work at 6 a.m. Another lazy coworker pings the trash can pictures and tells you, "Don't be such a baby, just do it." And that was the last straw. I can see red now. They made me hurt myself by making me work so hard to lift this industrial-sized trash bag, and now they're calling me a baby for saying I can't do it, even though it was their job to do it in the first place? That's when things turned around. I chose to do nothing at all. I won't leave the store unattended because I wouldn't be able to lock it from the outside, so I would be responsible if I did. I pull up a chair and only ring up customers. At 4:30, when the worried cook walks in, I tell them it's been a pleasure working with them, but I'm leaving right away. I didn't do any maintenance work before I left, so the store couldn't run. There was no third shifter, so the store could not stay open all night. I know that leaving this way hurt them a lot, but I hurt them even more in another way. After a few weeks, I stopped by to get a soda because I had just gotten a much better job. The store's clean, and there are a lot of new employees. The assistant manager says they were finally able to fire that lazy second shift girl because she made me quit, which made corporate mad. They still can't find someone to work third shift after a year. Have the members of your HOA or any of your neighbors ever done anything absolutely outrageous? Part 4. A while ago, we had a president of the HOA who would not provide a valid reason for temporarily prohibiting children from using the pool in the neighborhood. There were instances of vandalism committed by children in the neighborhood that was adjacent to ours, security cameras even caught them, and he frequently blamed people in our neighborhood for it, particularly minority families. This neighborhood had very few minority families, including mine, and this guy seemed to like to blame them for everything. When I had a group of friends over, there were about 3 or 4 of us, and we went to play tennis on the tennis courts in the neighborhood. He showed up and told us that the neighbors don't feel comfortable with a gang of boys hanging around here. You need to go, despite the fact that the tennis courts were open to anyone who lived in the neighborhood. We were subject to a fine for having our sprinklers on at inappropriate times if we engaged in the practice of turning on our irrigation system at any time after 5. In a different instance, he yelled at my friend for stealing a broken radio-controlled car from someone else's trash can. He said that my friend could go to jail for theft if he were any older, and that if he keeps up this delinquent behavior, he could get banned from the neighborhood. The final straw was when he fined us for excessive noise because it was a snow day and my friends and I were running up and down the street and sledding, and we were being loud kids, as in we weren't blasting music or anything like that, we were just being kids. A few months later, we actually relocated out of the neighborhood that we'd been living in because of this man's power trip, as well as because we discovered a larger house. A while ago, I had a conversation with someone who lives there, and I learned that this individual has since left the HOA as well as the state. An interesting fact is that he once attempted to prevent me from using the pool because I picked a flower from a plant that was located close to the clubhouse. According to him, this was considered destruction of neighborhood property. My mother yelled at him and told him that he was full of S and that a flower is not valuable neighborhood property. After that, she yelled at him again. The individual in question called the authorities to report us for public disobedience and attempted to have us removed from the neighborhood amenities, which included the tennis court and the pool. Due to the fact that calling someone out on their fallacy is not against the law, this obviously did not go through. Many years ago, our neighbor used to drive halfway up our driveway and then cross the yard to enter his garage because he didn't like the angle of his own driveway. It wasn't really a problem because our driveway was on that side of the yard, so the portion of our yard that he was driving on was so small that it was barely noticeable. The fact that he would become enraged at us in the event that we ever had a car or something else in our driveway that prevented him from doing this was, however, a problem. One day, my brothers and a few of my friends were hanging out in the yard and on the driveway when this guy came storming up angrily, yelling and swearing at us to move out of the way, be more respectful, and other things like that. When we were teenagers and we were in our own backyard, we told him to get out of there, but he just got in his pickup truck and drove up the driveway anyway, forcing us to scramble to get ourselves and our belongings out of the way. The ridiculous terraced garden setup that my father created took up an entire long weekend, and it was specifically designed to be placed in the area that this individual needed to use to access his yard. It's the only garden/yard construction project my dad has ever seen through to completion. Our elderly a-hole neighbor was allowed to construct a 4-car parking spot that was egregiously spread out across the end of our lane and on our private property by a longtime board member who's frequently sought after as the easy one for getting lot additions approved. Previously, she parked on gravel with one vehicle in an area that we now understand to be common land and that it is the board's fiduciary responsibility to maintain for common use. The roads are private and gravel, and she had parked on gravel in the past. It's lakefront, so the lots are all crammed together, and the HOA was approved a couple of years before the town created their building regulations. This is because the lots are all non-conforming and there's no setbacks. Each lot measures approximately 1/10 of an acre. In addition to making preparations to use the portion of private land that she built upon, we took the necessary steps to obtain a formal survey of the current condition of the property. We had to wait for the survey for a lengthy period of time. Prior to receiving the survey, we had a conversation with 3 of the 5 board members, during which we expressed our concern regarding the location of her driveway, stating that there's no possible way that it is even remotely on her land. It's essential to keep in mind that all of the lots are deeded to the public, which means that we're able to view the dimensions of any lot that we choose to look up. Having referred to hers and being aware of the dimensions of her home, it's clear that, similar to the majority of lots, there is hardly enough space for 2 vehicles to be parked on her property. These lots were designed in such a manner, and the covenants make it clear that this was the case. Given that she does not have multiple lots, it's only possible for someone to have a parking spot that can accommodate 4 cars. In the few weeks that followed the installation of the pavers, I lodged a complaint with one of the board members who had approved the project, and that person was Mr. Lax. He stated, "I simply had faith that she would construct on her very own land. I was required to submit my survey, the exact position and layout of the driveway, including measurements of the driveway, as well as the color of crushed stone that I was going to use when I installed a new driveway that same year through a different board member." Before installing a back patio behind their home, other HOA residents were required to obtain a survey first. I contacted a lawyer. He helped me a lot with the paperwork. We took the case to court. It was against this neighbor and a board member that allowed the addition without inspection, not against the entire HOA board. As a result, I won. The neighbor had to return everything as it was and pay compensation. The board member paid a fine and was also fired from the board. Justice. Amended. I stated that she is a litigious neighbor because immediately after I confirmed for her that she built on our land using the survey, she filed a lawsuit to take my private property by using a bogus adverse possessions claim. I used the land as well. If you want to watch the part 3, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for support.